So welcome back, guys. I've been asked recently by a couple of friends who are actually interested in getting into the Civil War period, what is the best way to go about actually starting in the hobby and specifically in the Civil War period. So I figured, why not make a video about it. If you haven't already, do please like and subscribe, just so that the channel keeps growing, and leave some comments down below about what you want to see, and that way I can work on it. It's a very big subject, is the Civil War. I mean, it spanned east to west, north to south, yeah, huge. Hundreds of thousands of combatants on both sides. So the first thing you've really got to do is ask yourself, what scale of game are you actually interested in playing? Are you a skirmish wargamer, or are you a large scale, large battle, tactical or even strategic player? Do you want to be moving brigades across the table, or do you want to be moving individual men? Because there are rule sets available for both levels, and whichever one you want to do is going to affect specifically what type of rule set and miniatures you're going to be buying. I mean, if you're coming more from skirmish level games like Bolt Action, Chain of Command from World War II, or Warhammer 40,000 and those sort of games, perhaps you might be more interested in more of a skirmish company level game, where you're only going to have, say, anywhere from about 20 figures all the way up to possibly 80 to 100 per side on the table. Or you might be coming from Warhammer 40,000 Epic or Napoleonics, where you love having corps, brigades, divisions, and you like moving them around the table. In that case, that's fine, there are rule sets for both types, but that's your first question, is what type of game are you personally interested in playing? I mean, some people think when it comes to skirmishing, oh, the Civil War was all giant battles, Antietam, Gettysburg, Manassas, etc. That's not necessarily the case. I just did a battle report a few weeks ago on Picachow Pass from over in Arizona, the most western battle of the Civil War, and there were only 13 men involved, so you can barely call it a battle, it's more of a skirmish. You've got General Forrest and his cavalry raids up all over the place, which, although he did command up to a division, you can have that on the individual level of individual commands. Skirmish games, perfect. You could have a go at the Bushwhacker War in Missouri. There's Grierson's raid. There's all sorts of different situations where you can just have skirmishes with a few dozen troops on the table and have great fun. So that should not be a barrier to entry if you're interested in skirmishing. So you've decided whether you want to play at skirmish level or grand scale. Fantastic. Now you've got to decide what rule set specifically is going to be suitable for that. I mean, you've got Fire and Fury, which can be regimental or brigade level. You've got Glory Hallelujah, which can be regimental all the way up. You've got my own rule set, which I'm working on, called Follow the Flag, which is more of a brigade level. And then you've got Greg Wagman's rule set. He's one of the chaps over at Little Wars TV, and he's got the Altar of Freedom rule set, which again is designed around corps and army battles. Definitely go and check out their channel. But yeah, that's your next decision, is which sort of rule set is going to really tick the boxes for me. So next up, I guess you got what we would class as the barrier to entry. What do you require to actually start playing the game? Now, this is really going to depend on the rule set and what you've decided upon. If you were to go for Epic Battles, Glory Hallelujah, you could buy the box set, which basically gives you everything that you need, short of a tape measure. So it's a very easy way to get into it. It gives you the rules, gives you the miniatures, gives you what you need, including scenery. If you were to go for one of the other rule sets, they don't usually come with the miniatures. It's just a rule set, and then you base according to what the rule set tells you to. And when I say base, that's what basing scale your miniature is going to be mounted on. But ultimately, yeah, it really comes down to what you are after. So for my own rule set, you could have a good game with a tape measure. You're going to need a couple of D6s and a bit of scenery, either store-bought or home-built, and which you don't really need. You can always go real old school and just use mats and books for hills and that sort of thing. What else are you going to need? You're going to need miniatures. Now, if you can 3D print, great. You can find free miniatures online. Otherwise, depending on whether you like larger 28mm or whether you like smaller 6 or 12mm, just find a company that sells them. But as I said, for my one, you're looking at needing anywhere from about 4 bases of infantry up to 8 bases of infantry, 2 bases of cavalry, and 1 artillery piece. So depending on which company you're buying it from, it's probably going to cost you somewhere in the region of about $12 to $15. That's about it per side. So for about $30, you're going to have everything that you need, including your tape measure, your dice, etc. If you were to buy the Wargames starter set, it's going to give you everything you need for both sides, but it is going to set you back, I don't know, I'm not sure, I haven't checked, but $100 or so. If you were to try and build up a large army of 28mm figures, again the price is going to go up. If you try and do it in 6mm, the price is going to be a lot cheaper. So it really depends on what scale you're interested in, what rule set you go for, and then you can find the miniatures to accommodate that. Of course, you will need to get some paints as well to paint your army up. You can, with the Wargames ones, they do come actually in grey and blue plastic, so that's quite useful because you can just put them together and play as is without having to paint them. But if you do want to paint your miniatures, you will have to buy the paints and brushes and bits and pieces of that nature. But luckily for the most part, you're really just going to need a black, a brown, dark blue, light blue, grey, and flesh. And if you have a wash to put over them, that's pretty well all you're going to need to get them done. Maybe a green for basing. So it's not a huge barrier, you don't need dozens and dozens of paints. If you're going to be painting in 28, you might want some extras just to bring them out, pick out the detail a bit more. But if you go in the smaller scale, which I prefer, it's quite limited the amount of paints you do actually need. And I've done some tutorials on how to paint them up pretty quickly and to a pretty reasonable standard. So now we've chosen what sort of scale we want to be using, miniature-wise, and what sort of level commander you want to be. Now it's all about putting it together. The best advice that I can give is think of the area that you want to be playing in, choose maybe a historical command, and then start building to that. So if you're going to be fighting brigade level, I'm not sure, maybe you're going to want 1 or 2 brigades in your army, which means you're going to need 3 bases per brigade, maybe 1 or 2 artillery pieces for your army, a unit of cavalry as scouts, not a huge amount. So build a core army around what you need for that specific area. Then you can at a later date you can expand out and build another brigade and another brigade, then you have a division. And then you start your next one at the brigade level, and then build it up, and then it becomes a division, and then you have a core. Don't go too haywire at the start. Don't think, oh, I'm going to go and recreate the entire Battle of Gettysburg, because that is going to be a lifelong project, unless you have tens of thousands of dollars to spend on your miniatures. Because to paint them all yourself is going to take forever, so you'd really want to probably get someone else to do it for you. So I would say starts at a level that is easy for you to really get into, and probably if you're starting out as a beginner, choose a rule set that doesn't require hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bases on the table, but just a few dozen to start with, so you can learn the rules, get used to painting them, and then slowly but surely you'll build and build and build. You'll meet new people who will have different ideas, different rules that they play, and it'll just develop. So don't dive in too deeply, just build steadily. Choose one of the campaigns like the Hood's campaign of Tennessee in late 64, and because that wasn't too big of a campaign really. I think he had about 39,000 troops, and I think Thomas, sorry, had maybe 50,000 spread out. So it's quite a lot of troops actually, but it's not as big as some of the campaigns, or Jackson's Valley campaign. Again, keep it simple. But really, ultimately, it's entirely up to you where your interests lie and what you want to achieve out of the hobby. The sky is really the limit, and yeah, just jump in, get into it. The more people we have playing, the better. Anyway, I hope this has been useful for you. If you've got any questions, please leave comments down below. I'm always really interested by the questions that I get. If they're about scenery, I like to build, so I like the suggestions. If it's about painting tutorials, again, I will do things for you guys. And if you want advice around any of the rule sets that I've talked about, again, I'm all ears and happy to oblige. But thanks for watching. I hope it's been useful for you, and I'll see you next time.